Hey everyone, this is Robert Jackson, and thank you for tuning in to the Station Square podcast. And I'm hoping everybody stays safe and they're getting ready for the winter or summer holidays, whichever um, time zones that people are in. I'm not the best with, converting this stuff. But anyways, the reason that I mentioned this is because I have a couple of guests that are from the UK, and you might have seen their YouTube channel. They do a lot of Scooby-Doo related videos. They also do interviews and talk with various guests on their show. And their guest lineup is really impressive. So I just want to introduce JB and Millie. Thank you for joining me on my little show. And it's such a pleasure to have the both of you on. And yeah, we're going to have lots of fun. So would you like to say hi to the folks out there?
Yeah,
Hi,
hello. Thanks so much for having us. It's a pleasure.
Of course, of
yeah.
course. So with that said, since I do have a few questions for you guys, so let's get right into the thick and thin, or the meat of yeah, I'm just on a roll today. So anyways, yeah, so my first question is, since you got a lot of Scooby-Doo merch in the background, I'm supposed that the obvious question would be, so how did you actually first, when did Scooby-Doo fall into place? Like, when did it start becoming play like a large part in both of your lives? What was your introduction to the franchise?
I mean, we both really liked the show a lot growing up. We both watched it independently. I mean, JB and I didn't meet till we're about 20, so it's something we'd both grown up with, both really enjoyed. And then I think it's fair to mention our friend Smash, their channel was very Scooby-Doo based, and when we started speaking with them, it kind of was the first time we'd ever had that conversation of just how much we'd both enjoyed it, what like growing up. And that then kind of sparked us beginning to watch it together, then collecting it together, and then ultimately the channel kind of came as a result of.
Yeah, that's about it really. It all kind of went on, I guess, a snowball effect after speaking to Smash, and from there it's just kind of gone crazy. And it really all started when we made the commitment to watch every single movie for the podcast. And we started that podcast because of Smash's name. I just thought, oh, Smash or Pass. I just want to make that into a show. And I guess yeah, the rest is what's going on now.
Yeah. To commit to watching every single Scooby-Doo movie, I mean, for somebody like me, I also watched the original, but then I also watched a pub named Scooby-Doo and recently started watching Mystery Incorporated, which is really good. So for the franchise itself, it's just kind of something that's been around since wow, man, since 60s. So like pretty much for almost like half a century. I think it's kind of like it stands true. It's a testament for how insanely even though like Hanna-Barbera, like the Creed and Spears and Ruby Spears, even though the original creators are no longer with us, Scooby-Doo as a franchise and as a brand is going to continue to live on, especially after all this time. And that's the same with like a lot of other long running franchises and shows and whatnot. So, um, so you said that you got started I think you mentioned that you two didn't meet until like the 20s, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we met
So,
about 5 years ago
okay.
Yeah.
now.
So, how would you say that your relationship definitely helped with the growing popularity of the channel and, your guys' chemistry just because I know that you guys have great chemistry together. So, how would you say that it also helped with getting the channel off the ground and, starting your YouTube hobby or career or
That's
somewhat?
actually a really fun question because it actually just started as the JB channel
Yeah.
and it didn't really do anything. I just did a few awful gaming videos where I often did feature Millie, but then when we started with Animal Crossing gameplay and we decided to have an island together, it was kind of like, right, let's integrate this more. And then it became JB and Millie. And from there, I think it all kind of flowed.
It does, and it kind of helps, like you say, that we do know each other so well because, for all when we have interviews, we have like pre-planned questions and things like that. The guest answers can change those questions. And just through kind of little hand signals underneath the screen, we know what the other one means just by a simple hand movement, and we can kind of tap into each other's mind a little bit. But I think it also kind of helps that because we know each other so well on some of the like opinionated videos, we're not kind of as shy at kind of calling each other out a little bit when we disagree.
Yeah, some of them are just arguments, but for arguments and fun.
Yeah.
So it's just like you're having fun, but it's fun arguments.
Yeah. Whenever we seem like we're disagreeing a lot, we're actually having a great time.
Oh yeah, I can totally relate with that. Um, so for the channel itself, because I know that I think technically, for the channel, because you guys have been together for 5 years, but when did the channel begin?
Oh gosh. Well, it's something's birthday in terms of opening the account actually today, but
It's
it
its
didn't start
third year,
until
I'm gonna say.
May. Is it May 2020 or do you think 2019?
No, it would. Okay, so yeah, like you said, the opening the account would have had its second anniversary, perhaps just now. No, oh my goodness, you confused me now,
No,
JB.
it's just
So
an anniversary of the account. I don't think I posted for a while, so it could be like the sixth anniversary of the account opening today for all I know.
I think we've been doing the channel for about 2 years. It basically started as a result of lockdown. We were just kind of stuck in the house at home and needed something to do that was kind of constructive with our time, that meant that we weren't just going to like sit in our pajamas all day and not do very much. So we started to work to a schedule of wanting to do 3 videos a day throughout lockdown and kind of hold ourselves a little bit accountable to something so that like 100 days just weren't slipping by and we had nothing to show for it.
Right, right. Because it's very interesting with how a lot of people literally just got their start, right when the pandemic was like at its peak. And I actually did another interview with the Ultra Hope Girls, which is a Danganronpa related podcast. And they literally started like right when the lockdown happened. And they also have interviewed like a lot of video game actors, composers, and which is kind of similar to what you guys do. It's mostly Scooby Doo related on your end. So I usually like to do stuff that is like, I usually have like themes. I occasionally may do like Sonic the Hedgehog month. I may do something related to that, which I did a few years ago, which was a lot of fun. But most of all, it's just kind of like what I do is kind of like it's a chill podcast where I just pretty much discuss and talk about just anything that comes to mind. So, and with your format, it seems like that you guys kind of do like a similar sort of format for your show where you talk to people and you ask them like specific questions that are related to like if it's either the movies, video games, the cartoons, which is something that I really enjoy. And um, so I wanted to ask, how much prep time does it take for you two before you actually schedule these videos and do these interviews?
Oh
So
gosh.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to give a lot of credit to JV here. So I kind of work about 10 hours to 10 to 12 hours a day at work, so I don't get time for much else. So JV reaches out to people, sets up the interviews. You've got a process of preparing questions, and from my perspective, I'm really lucky. I kind of just swan in at the last minute, like come through the door when I get home from work, and JB sent me, some questions on an email. All I need to do is kind of sit down and prepare and like record. So for me, it's kind of 5 minutes preparation, whereas JB is the one that kind of has gone through the process of locating the guests and all the kind of build up to that with scheduling and the questions and everything.
Well, I'm an awful procrastinator, so ideally I would get a set of questions banged out in maybe a couple of hours. But there's actually one set of questions for an upcoming interview that I've been sitting on for like 4 or 5 days just because I don't want to mess it up. Like there's been occasions where I've not written the best questions and then regretted it later. So there's always it could take a day. Like we reached out to someone 4 months ago and I wrote the questions within 20 minutes and then they got busy and I haven't, done it. Like we've heard nothing back. But there's also been occasions where a guest has been available within a day and I've left it up to the 11th hour to do the question. So it depends really, but I'd say on average, from hearing back from them, couple of days.
I mean, like you said, we did have one guest that said, I can give you 20 minutes notice, so you're ready to record kind of thing. And we're like, oh, okay. We're gonna have to like be on the spot and ready with this, and
I forgot how I did that.
I don't remember either.
That was, I think, Ronnie Shell. That was a
Yeah.
great interview though, but yeah, I don't remember how we did that. That's crazy.
Right, right. So, who are some of your favorite? I mean, just the videos that you hold very fondly. What were some of your like, the not necessarily, I guess I might as well say the best or like some of your personal favorite like videos or interviews that you've done so far?
Oh, I mean, I always have a diplomatic answer, but I just pull out of somewhere saying, "Oh, my favorite's always the most recent one," because then you look forward to the next one. But there's definitely favorite moments in interviews. Like some that sticks out to my mind is showing the Lunar Ghost actor, the Lunar Ghost action figure, is absolutely amazing. Being shown the deleted Scooby-Doo 2 monsters from Peter Crosman, and even a recent one that we did. Joe Sichter showed us
Yeah,
the
that's one
original
that stood
concepts
out to
for
me.
the Loch Ness Monster movie. Stuff like that, like where the unexpected happens, is always incredible. And it's happened time and time again. And to that end, you always get excited. Like I thought after interview 3 that we'd almost have peaked with our first couple of guests. But then you get us in interview 55 and there's like deleted footage being shown to us, and it's like, oh my gosh, this could just go on forever. I mean, what about you, Millie? What are your
I mean,
highlights?
I'm gonna be watching your reaction to this as I say it because I'm scared that I'm gonna ruin an interview that's not out yet or
Oh
something.
god.
But I feel like it's really the ones where you can see that they kind of have a love for what's behind it. So, like you said, Joe Sick Day, it was really interesting seeing how they came to work on projects like that. So that one really stood out to me because they created an entire book to pitch the idea of a movie, and that's how they ended up working on that. There was somebody else who we did an interview with who came up with almost like a school report card for each one of the gang, and that's how they ended up getting the role. So it's just kind of a lot of the time it's about kind of just learning those things and seeing those processes. I mean, Joe Sichter certainly stands out to me, and again Kent Bader, just the amount we found out that was kind of deleted behind the scenes of the 2002 Scooby-Doo the movie was kind of overwhelming just to find out so much. It's always, you go into some interviews and you kind of can't ever know what to expect. You quite often they can just pick something up and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, what is that? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you got since you have a ton of Scooby-Doo knowledge from the movies and the various media that you've consumed over the years, so what have been some of your like I may also ask what are some of your favorites, but like what were some of the most surprising like pieces of trivia or knowledge that you've stumbled across over the years, Scooby-Doo related?
See, it's weird. I wouldn't say that I've got crazy knowledge about Scooby. I'd say that from that initial interaction, almost every interview we do is like me sitting in a class that I really want to be in, and every time I leave with more and more knowledge. And it's always the weirdest things that you learn. And I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. One that comes to my mind isn't really appropriate. Um, Okay, so one that happened recently when we interviewed George Doty, the fifth. Did I get that right? Because I
You
got it
did.
wrong in my introduction. But interviewing George Doty, finding out that Scrappy could have had a cameo in What's New Scooby Doo, that actually shocked me a lot. And even the fact that they declined it, because it was almost a jab at Scrappy's character. And I'm surprised Warner Brothers said no, because they've taken a lot of opportunities to jab at Scrappy and I won't spoil it for you if you're watching it now, but it's possibly in Mystery Incorporated. Of course, the 2002 movie made Scrappy the villain, so that was kind of surprising to learn.
I think something that's always interesting to kind of learn is just the amount of people working on the movie. Like, it never, like, even the credits at the end of the movie, like, for all you may think that they're long for some movies, like, even then, there's people that still don't get enough acknowledgement. There's like we've spoken with people who perhaps just animated a couple of scenes, and just the sheer quantity of people from all over the globe, like what a global project some of them have been as well. Again, kind of the Joe Sictor one, but he actually flew out to, oh, can you remember where it was?
It was somewhere, I think it was Bangladesh, possibly.
Possibly. So they had to fly there from America to see some of the animation, then had to it was for the Loch Ness movie, so they then went to Scotland for it as well. And like just a tie-in of it being such a global involvement. It's really interesting to kind of find out the stories behind it.
Totally. Um, and list of, do you have like any favorites, like Scooby-Doo piece of media? Because I know I mentioned my a couple
Yeah.
earlier. I was wondering what are yours?
Series wise, I'm gonna say What's New Mystery Incorporated are like my top two.
Oh well, mine it has to be the 2002 live action movie. I'm obsessed with that movie to a ridiculous amount. And in fact, I think what I've got for that movie possibly could receive some type of diagnosis. I'm not quite sure, but that always stands out as like I could watch that every second of every day on repeat and not get bored. So that series wise, I love Mystery Incorporated. And
Mm.
one that I want to mention because it rarely gets mentioned in a favorable light, I see, publicly, is Be Cool Scooby Doo because that's just funny as anything. So I like Be Cool.
Yeah. Um, so I wanted to ask you something that is like outside of Scooby-Doo, but what are some of your favorite like I know I keep asking favorites, but do you have like any other shows or like games or yeah, just any piece of media that you also enjoy in your spare
I
time?
mean, something that became a relatively big thing for us was the Marvel franchise. So I had never seen that in my life before meeting JB. I'd never seen one of them. And JB was like, "You're coming to the midnight screening of, was it Spider-Man?"
Yeah, it was the second Tom Holland one.
Yeah. And so after dragging me to like a few midnight screenings, that's become like a big thing for us now. Like whenever there's a Marvel movie, we try and do like a midnight screening or something like that. And I guess kind of games outside that, like Animal Crossing and Mario and stuff like that, it's all become kind of like big side things that sometimes do kind of come into the channel and remove the Scooby element for a little bit just to kind of shake things up.
Yeah, I think Scooby, for all it's such an important part of the channel, it's almost we're into so many fandoms that sometimes even outside it, sometimes can get a bit drowned out. Like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer shrine that we've got
Mm.
is amazing. That's such an incredible show.
We do collect far too many things. So
We do,
we've
yeah.
got kind of as in our kind of main living room, there's like 3 bookcases, and we've got like a shelf all the way across the 3 that's Buffy, then we've got a shelf all the way across the 3 that's like Marvel Funko Pops, and then shelf across that's Animal Crossing, another one that's Harry Potter. Like we collect
Yeah.
a lot of things.
And underneath this Scooby shelf, it's full of Stephen King books.
Yeah, JB collects like first edition Stephen King books. There's a lot.
There's too much actually. We should get rid of one.
I mean, no, 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 no. I'd say that like anything. As you can see behind me, I collect posters. I have like books that you can't really see. And I like to collect stuff. And if you're somebody who likes to collect numerous things, I know that when you did the interview with Bob Bergen, he had like an entire wall
Oh
of
yeah.
yeah, celebrity and like autographs and stuff like that. So it's like you know, um it just kind of shows that you're really passionate and everybody just has everybody's kind of like a nerd. They just like various stuff and they're just not afraid to show that yep, they're geeks and nerds and they're cool like most of us. We're humans.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
used to be a bit reserved. Like I don't know why. I don't know if I thought that coming across as more boring was gonna make me like more like cool. But now I'll just go out, walk around town with a Scooby hoodie on, and you just kind of rock it. It's fun. I mean, I would say we've technically cut out Pokemon cards because that was a thing for ages. There's like videos of us opening loads of them. And that was probably the most expensive hobby we've ever been into.
I'm gonna say for us, kind of that like appreciating and embracing your inner self kind of
Your
really
inner
happened
child,
after,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Really happened more after kind of starting the channel, because I think until then, like before we started doing the channel, we were both in law school together. And so we were like very typical law school, reserved,
nerds.
never had like, I don't know, like just really plain clothes, never had like a Scooby emblem on it or like Harry Potter or Sonic or anything like that. Very just kind of plain, reserved, and not kind of showing any inner childlike behaviors or interests or anything like that. And then starting the channel, we just kind of developed
Yeah.
and became like a lot more comfortable, a lot more kind of outgoing about what we enjoy and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. So I know this is kind of like a question that I kind of ask from time to time, but did you honestly expect your channel to take off the way it did? And getting all talking to all these people and just yeah, and learning from them over the years, the way that it has for like these last 2 years that you mentioned.
See, in its time, the channel's transitioned so much because when we first started, we were
Yeah,
just
the
kind of,
transitioning, yeah.
yeah, it just started off doing like Animal Crossing and Mario. It was very like Nintendo-y stuff. And then that was kind of fun and it was doing okay, but it was never like, I don't know, I feel like the kind of hype that we get when we do an interview, like there is a certain amount of excitement that forms when you do an interview, and like when we've done them, we like whoever's a guest, like the guests on it that help ask the questions with us, we just can sit and talk for so long because it builds up such a hype and such an level of excitement speaking with people that we certainly never got in the earlier days of the channel when it
Yeah.
was like just perhaps playing Nintendo for a little bit. It was still fun, but kind of the level that it's now gone to, and we certainly when we were start doing Nintendo videos didn't think that we'd be speaking with the person that edited our favorite ever Scooby movie or something like that.
That's the thing. I mean, people say, taking off and what, and it depends on the definition of that. Because if you think about it in terms of subscriber counts, really, we've not gone much of anywhere within the last year or so. Because I think the decision was made quite early on with the interviews to sacrifice subscriber count for experiences. So we rarely celebrate follower milestones or subscriber milestones, but we'll always celebrate getting to 50 interviews. I've hopefully, fingers crossed, got something planned for 75 interviews because for all that number of subscribers hasn't crept up, when it gets to 100 interviews, I know that that's going to be one of the biggest days in the whole channel's life. And also, getting featured on stuff like Screen Rant and Total Film, The Cartoon Brew, comicbook.com. It's like,
wasn't there like you there was one day when I was at work and JB sent me an email just saying, because one of the Scooby-Doo movies had been cancelled at the same time as, was it Batgirl, JB?
yeah, Holiday Home.
And so JB sent me an email like, we've just had an email from the like representative of like different newspapers that
Like
are
the
really big
Daily
in the UK, like
Mail,
the Daily
Daily
Mail and
Mirror.
stuff like that. They want to know if they can use the interview because it's the first time this person's spoken about the movie. And we're like, oh my gosh, this just happened. So like subscriber wise, like you say, it's never been a big thing, but there's been stuff that happens and it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like when I sat up, if you can pass me that actually, the tripod, because this is how we used to do gameplay. Literally just this with our phone aimed at the TV. When I was setting up that tripod, not even with a capture card or anything, never once did I think one day this is gonna lead to being, on a page in the Daily Mirror or the Daily Express. Like,
I
it's
remember
crazy to think about
when we
that.
had 10 subscribers, we'd gone for a walk, we were talking about it, and we are trying to work out like if this finally meant we'd like there was someone that we didn't know that had subscribed to the channel kind of thing. Like I remember the first person kind of subscribing that wasn't like a friend or a family member or something like that. And it's just kind of insane to think that I think we're now at like 2,000 in terms of
I
subscribers.
suspect people thought we were gonna do well though, because obviously not mentioning any names, but we were not so politely asked to stop doing the interviews quite early on. So I think people knew that we were gonna do something, and maybe they were a bit, because I think a lot of the attitude was like these people are just fresh into this thing and they're already kind of going gung ho with it. So I don't know. I think people knew, but I didn't know until relatively recently.
Yeah, totally. And well, it definitely paid off because look at the both of you now. Shows down.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, perhaps if it wasn't for that, we would have just been happy. Because my goal this year, and you can find the tweet, and I put it on YouTube as well, is at least one interview every month.
We're
That
now on
was
one a
my
week.
goal, and now it's one a week consistently. And it is actually incredible. And I love every single one of the interviews. There's not been one that I've walked away from thinking that I hated it. Yeah.
Right. Um, so how do so how would you also say that being on YouTube and using social media also boosted the channels? Um, I guess it really gave it such a huge uptick of followers, recognition, and it really just helped gain the, with everything that you're doing, how would you say the social media helped, um, gain momentum as
Hmm.
you went along?
I think social media is important to the part that we
Yeah.
met other people that way. So I think a lot of people, because I think like, ultimately everybody spends a lot of time on social media and there's certain things that trend or come up or people search for. And that often can be what causes the link between our first conversation that then can transition over to YouTube. And likewise, Smash, who we ended up doing, I want to say about 100 videos with, they started as somebody that commented on our YouTube and then they transitioned across to social media from there. So the two have really kind of worked side by side for us. We've had a lot of interactions through Instagram that have then led to people on the channel, and likewise, like one of the best friends that we made through doing the channel, and some other people as well, incredible people that we've met, originated from both sides, and there's just been crossovers between the two.
Yeah, and sometimes interview people. I'll email like the professional side of things, like the representative or the agent, and I'll hear nothing back. And that was the case with I think Tom Ruger. So I went through like what I found on IMDb Pro and I didn't hear anything. And then I was just like, oh gosh, I'm nervous to do this because I don't want to be unprofessional. But I just dropped a message on Facebook and it was like, oh, okay, cool. It worked this time. So I guess social media is not a bad way of connecting with potential guests as well.
Yeah, like that's how a lot of our interviews have originated through, say, Facebook or Instagram. And like, I want to say when we interviewed Marty Grabstein, that originated
I think Facebook,
through Facebook or Instagram or something.
one
And
of them.
that was kind of at the time when that interview came out, my brother called my mum and was like, "You need to see who they've just interviewed. This one's like really famous." Because it was like the voice of Courage the Cowardly Dog and that kind of thing. And so even my brother like literally just called my mum to just say, "Oh wow, this is amazing." And that was just, you know, social media has a great way of connecting anybody. And so we sent him a message on social media, and then that's how that just kind of transpired, was that he he just basically said, "Okay, let's set something up, here's my phone number, call me now." And JB threw the phone at me and was like, "You're calling them, speak to them, go." And this was on like Christmas Eve or something at my
Yeah.
parents' house.
And then there was another situation where I accidentally called someone that we were meant to be calling on
Oh my
WhatsApp.
gosh, yeah.
That was Miguel. And I just handed you the phone. And before I even had a chance to explain anything, I just heard his voice going, "Hello, who is this?" Like, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That was an accident. I
Yeah, so
promise."
on like whenever a guest has like just been like, "Here's my phone number, can we like set something up, call me?" Like I said, like Jimmy said, there was one occasion where he just pressed call on his WhatsApp and threw the phone at me, just like, "Oh, I'm not doing this."
But there have
I
been
get thrown
guests,
into
and this
it.
is where you obviously gave me a lot of credit for scheduling the interviews, right? But if there's one thing I cannot do confidently and competently is get on the phone and almost cold call someone. So I want to say Marty Grabstein, Bill Bowes, Miguel A. Nunez Jr. Those three interviews wouldn't have happened without you because I would not have called them. I would have been too scared. So credit to you.
Mm. I mean, it's good to know. Thank you for admitting that, like, I mean, we sometimes still get nervous whenever we talk to like big, like very like famous guests or celebrities. It's good to know that you kind of still get nervous before you talk to like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to this person. What is this? Is this even a reality? You know, it's kind
Oh
of
gosh,
really
yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
For me, that's reminding me of the two interviews we've done. That were people that had like live action played in movies. Both Daphne and Shaggy. And when we went into those two interviews, it's almost like there was just something about those two people where it was kind of like different level
Yeah,
JB.
I thought it was we did Nick Pilatus episode 50, and I wasn't nervous at all on the build up because it was just business as usual for lack of a better word because it was interviews day in day out week in week out, and then he entered the Zoom and I was stunned to the point where I just didn't say anything until it was time for me to ask my question. So I was completely blown away by that. But also, I think a different format is always nervous. Like, for example, I think in myself, I felt more nervous even to come on here than I have done for the last 15 interviews. So it's about like variety as well. Like, we've never done a Zoom like this where we've not been the one like, okay, we're scheduling this, I've written this, let's see what happens.
Yeah,
So
it's like the first time we're the ones answering the questions, and JB turned around to me about half an hour ago and went, "I'm actually quite nervous for this, you know." I was like, "Oh, I understand."
Totally, totally. Yeah. Because usually I would be the ones to ask the questions, but I was recently on like two podcasts where I was actually the guest and I had to answer questions that people have for me. So it's like I understand the feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing this. Whoa. The kind of is kind of like seeing what's on the other side of the glass, pretty much. Role reversal. Yeah.
yeah, it's made me
Um,
feel a lot more grateful actually to the people that we've had on because I was nervous to do this, but just thinking about the fact that the amount of people that have been willing to be with us is just crazy.
Yeah, it is. It kind of like really makes you appreciate the people that get interviewed by you because it's kind of like, oh wow, so they do this, like they enter a Zoom like knowing that there's going to be questions thrown at them and they might not know what they are because they've not looked over the questions that we sent or something like that. It's kind of like it really makes you appreciate, the people that have given us the time before and everything.
Oh, totally. So I actually didn't know this is like the first time you're actually like on someone else's podcast, which is very interesting to know.
Yeah, we
Thank you.
did a
Glad to be of
few
service.
co things, not like this at all though. It was like almost a debate rather than an interview. So this is definitely our first interview.
Nice.
So it's
Yeah,
great.
cool. So let's see. Since we are running out of time, do you have like um anything that you like to share? Any upcoming videos or projects that you're working on that you like to plug for a bit?
Well, I guess this is gonna be announced. I mean, depending on when you put this out, this could have already happened, but this is gonna be announced later today. We've got an interview coming out with the writer Jeff Holder, who wrote the episode of The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Oh gosh, I don't even know. It's When You Witch Upon a Star. That was the episode. So it's kind of the last one that we're really dedicating to finish off spooky season for all. It's kind of been and gone. Still to keep things on that darker tone is interesting. Other than that, I guess just the Instagram at JMillyVids, the YouTube channel JBN Milly. We're trying to do like more and more content. Like we've started recently doing top 10 lists, for example. And that's actually really interesting. I think I'm enjoying doing them more than the reviews because we've we've transitioned from reviewing all of the movies to all of the episodes of the show, and it's become quite
A process.
yeah it's yeah
It is, and I think just having those debate style videos, which we're starting to do more of, it's kind of good for JB because like we are saying at the start, when we come across as disagreeing, we're actually having a great time and arguing over what our favorite movies are and favorite moments are is certainly something we're having a lot of fun with.
So, real quick, any fun facts or anything that not a lot of people know about you two?
Oh,
Hmm.
JB.
Me. Fun facts. Gosh, I don't. I mean, there's a lot of unexpected things that because I had a very different lifestyle before university. I used to be an amazing wakeboarder, and now not so much. I'll get back there though. What else? What else? What else? You're related to Brian Blessed, aren't you? That's a fun fact about
Yeah,
you.
it's a fun fact. I guess like we were saying earlier, just kind of the us before the channel, like law school graduates and stuff like that. We just like us away from the channel is such a stark contrast. Like we're genuinely two very shy people. Like I sit at my desk at work all day and don't say a word to anybody. Like we are so quiet that you kind of wouldn't believe. And like because we don't really cross our lives over either. So JB's family certainly doesn't know about the channel really. My family don't really get too involved in it either. The people that we work with and stuff like that, like none of them know that this is the kind of people that we are outside of work because quite frankly they wouldn't believe it. We are just so quiet and kind of avoid conversations that like when we're in front of a microphone it's an entirely different kind of person.
Mhm.
Right. So, would you like to plug in your social media, YouTube channel, and other places where people
and
can reach out to you and follow you at?
and this is over to
Yeah,
JB.
for sure. So YouTube, JB Milly, we aim for 3 videos a day with reviews supposedly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, interviews on Saturdays, and Instagram. We're again aiming for daily uploads of Scooby-Doo collectibles that we've collected over the years. And TikTok's dead, but I think that's J Milly vid as well. What
We
else do we have?
try.
We've got Twitter, but Twitter's my place to like essentially to be a bit, it's like Instagram but unfiltered.
I would like to say that any comments seen
No,
on
well,
the
yeah,
Twitter
yeah.
is JB.
Well, that's it. That's just it.
Yeah,
I'm a bit scrappy on Twitter, so maybe stay away from Twitter. What
yeah.
else?
Everything, Facebook, everything.
Yeah.
Any
It's
last
JB and
word?
Millie on everything. Yeah, thank you so much for your time as well. Like, it's been amazing to speak with you.
And also, I guess to anyone watching this, if you're new from our channel or if you've seen us promote this, please do subscribe to this channel because honestly, be like, because we do pretty much what you do. And I know the work that goes into setting up guests, asking the questions, speaking with them, one on one. And it really isn't an easy task at all. It takes a lot of guts to do it and commitment to stick with it. So if you are watching this, please do subscribe to this channel because genuinely it's tough. And I've got the advantage where I like to collaborate with people. So if I write 20 questions, maybe I'm asking three, four, five of them at most. Whereas you ask the questions, all the questions you ask, and I could not imagine doing that. So huge respect to what you're doing over here because I couldn't imagine doing it like that because it's just incredible.
Of course. And with that, this has been this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, see y'all next time. And until then, this is Robert Jackson signing out. Peace. Bye.